Welcome to How Women Inspire. Today, I am joined by one of the most inspiring, innovative, super cool, brilliant scientists and founders of one of our portfolio companies. Today, we are here with Dr. Grace Wei, who is the co-founder of Encellin. Welcome. So happy to have you here. When you look at Grace's background, she started her career in academia and then she leapt into biotech and entrepreneurship, launched a company that's rethinking how we treat chronic disease through everything from transplant technology. And under her leadership, Encellin has progressed through top accelerators like Combinator and Stanford StartX and has really built a world-class board and is moving towards mature clinical trials. Grace's story is just full of grit, vision, and the valuable lessons that any founder can make on the rise. So thank you for being with me today, Dr. Grace.
Oh, thank you, Julie. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you for all the kind words. I would be remiss if I didn't say that Encellin is the brainchild of my co-founder, Crystal Nitre. And I was very lucky to team up with her from the very beginning. We've just been having a great time creating the story together.
Well, I think so many successful leaders and ventures really benefit from having somebody who balances out your personality and your strengths so that you together can both create one complete team vision.
It's more fun. And also, I think the support that you give each other is critical.
It helps me break out of just the thinking in the weeds and sort of be more creative and step out. So before we dive into this discussion today, where I know there's going to be a lot more juicy bits around that, but it's like to be a co-founder, et cetera. But can we start with something fun? Like imagine a dinner table and think about three trailblazing women from history. Who's on that guest list? And what is a burning question that you're going to ask each of them?
So many possibilities, but I realize that I tend to admire people who were outsiders, but then spent their life working to carve out a path for themselves.
Yeah.
And then there are also other people who maybe don't have that, but they found themselves in a moment. And in that moment, they found incredible courage. In the case of people who built a life and consciously tried to strive towards something, example would be maybe Theodora, who was empress of the Eastern Roman Empire or the Byzantine Empire.
All right.
That was so she ruled with Justinian, and the Justinian Code is still the
Yeah.
basis of civil law.
Yeah.
And
Amazing.
I mean, it's called the Justinian Code, but really, she seemed to be really critical to
Could have been the
codifying.
Theodorian code or something, right?
Well, it should have been both, right? And she was responsible for a lot of laws that recognized the role of women. And then one of my favorite writers of travel history, Dame Rebecca West, also was sort of self-taught from adolescence, but became one of the top journalists on both sides of the Atlantic. She was a contemporary of H.G. Wells, born in the late 1800s. But so those people, I think they really they wanted to do something and they set themselves to it. And then among the other class of people who maybe they didn't plan on something, but they found themselves in a situation. And contemporary of ours, Madame Pellicot in France, who was just named the Legion of Honor.
Yeah.
So to people like Theodora or Rebecca West, my questions would be, what are your favorite methods of acquiring knowledge?
Oh, okay.
Who did you reach out to? How did you find them? How did you get an audience? I mean, for Theodora, obviously, it's probably easier to get an audience, but and also, how long do you usually hold these audiences? I have this personal pet theory that any significant conversation needs to be over 30 minutes. So
Yeah.
I'd be very curious to know what they would say.
Okay.
For someone like Madame Pellicot, I would ask, how did you marshal all of your internal resources and your ability to rationally
Yeah.
think and chart a path when I'm sure your whole being just wants to bury itself and not
Yeah.
think at all?
Right. Right. Oh, those are fantastic, and I think, I honestly part of me thinks, you know what? 30, 40 years from now, someone's gonna have your name on their list because it's like, how did you change the future of precision medicine? How did you get to a point where you were really understanding this was the breakthrough that was gonna be the game changer for all kinds of things that are gonna be changing medicine into the future? I mean, right now, it's so barbaric in so many ways, Grace. That's what I think when I talk about what you're doing. I really think like this is, women's estrogen cycles have such a huge impact on how we metabolize medicine. We shouldn't be having the same milligrams at the second week of your cycle as the fourth, right? So like there has to be a better way. It feels like a hammer.
Well, nobody works in isolation. There are lots of scientists who also are working on this, and it takes a lot of people.
Lovely. Well, I'm putting your name down for the future dinner table. I'm gonna let you own that shining light. So, talking about light and sparks, what sparked your interest in turning from academia and academic research, which is such a very specific, intense, but in a different way kind of thing, to actually moving into a startup environment?
Yeah, I mean, never underestimate serendipity.
Yeah.
Credit goes to Crystal and the work that she started with Tejal Desai, both of those women being engineers. I was familiar with their work, and I knew that Crystal wanted to take this out of the lab and use these membranes that they were creating to bring cell therapy into the clinic. And so now we're a platform-based company, engineering materials, but we aspire to grow up to be a full therapeutic company.
Yeah.
And that means that you have to have some biology in there. So at the time that I ran into her again, she said she was thinking about going out. And I said, well, if you need a biologist, because at some point you're going to need a biologist, let me know if you need some help. And so that's how we started. And for me, I think what inspired me to join her was I had been at that time working on trying to help establish a number of different kinds of partnerships with industries, with companies that were of various different sizes. And I could see that what she wanted to do could be used in so many different clinical cases and diseases. And coming from my background in developmental biology, I could see how quickly stem cell biology was moving and has moved incredibly quickly, which would mean that there would be a new way to treat chronic conditions using what people now are calling living medicine or cells, as opposed to just chemicals or drugs.
Yeah.
How you administer these new therapies with cells is a question all on its own.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think of them. And Encellin is, as far as I know right now, only one of two companies in the clinic.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of gene therapy using the CRISPR technology. Is that something that's adjacent to, like, as a scientist, do you think
It
that's,
can
like, really
definitely cross
far
over.
away or
Yeah, it can definitely cross over. I mean, you can do gene therapy directly in the body. You could do gene therapy on cells and then put those cells into one of our solutions or packages and deliver it that way. It definitely can be crossover there.
interesting. You really prioritize surrounding yourself with the right people and I think personally you've done that and you brought that into the experience of this amazing company that you're leading. So, what were some of the most important early relationship building decisions you made and how do you think about prioritizing that? It's very easy to just keep your head in the science and, not understand how
Right.
important those relationships are.
Right. I think back to when we were first interviewing lawyers, and I say this all the time, and people think I'm crazy, but I love our lawyers. We started with a great IP team. We have managed to cajole one member of that original team to continue working with us fractionally, even though she gave up her practice to also become an entrepreneur. They were actually very creative. They're great at
Uh-huh.
problem solving. They have a genuine interest in the problems that we were trying to solve. They were great communicators, and you knew that you could rely on,
You could trust
the
that
information.
they were that they you didn't have to go get a whole bunch of alternative
Right,
opinions, and
right,
these were
right.
people that had pretty darn good ones.
That phenotype, I think, is seeing that phenotype up front early on led to, I think, a good model for trying to recognize
Yeah,
people, whether they be investors or whether they be partners, uh,
yeah.
to look for that kind of phenotype.
I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm not asking for a seat at the table. My friends, this is the first generation of us. We have a huge opportunity. We have power and influence and wealth. And we can start building the tables where we get the prime seats. Today, we want to invite you to join us as investors in venture. I know no one's asked you to do it before. It might be something that seems scary or foreign, but I promise you it's not that different than investing in a mutual fund where your retirement funds are. I want you to lean in and just learn a little bit more. How about making a commitment that in the next 12 months, you can give yourself 12 months to figure it out and to take a step? I want to invite you to be part of the new table of power and influence and wealth. You're invited. I want to sit at the table with you because we're going to make big change. We're going to make the world we've been dreaming of. It's kind of interesting, though. I've been leading for companies for a long time. And when you're younger, you really think it's just easier to do it myself. It's very hard to get people to start to delegate, for example. And then there comes a point when and I think like when I was 30, I thought I knew more than everybody else. And people felt that when they were around me, I think, on occasion. And so you get so much more humble as you get older. And I do think, there is a moment in time where you're like, not only do I recognize I need these relationships, but I'm going to move from transaction to relationship. And I think this is one of the most important things for founders and anyone listening to this to really understand, where am I at in my life cycle of understanding and valuing and engaging people in the right way. How are you going to know this person in 15 years and both of you guys going to feel like you're celebrating together because they did one little thing? They gave you one word of advice at one point in time. You make them feel like they still get to be a winner with the team when it's all said and done. Like that to me is like a massive developmental learning. Do you feel like you kind of, what was there a thing that got you there, Grace? Was it your own experience where you yourself were like, hey, you need a biologist, it's me. Like that might have been you yourself coming to that.
I realized pretty early on that stepping out of just science into an endeavor that required us to think about getting to an actual
The market.
to the clinic.
You don't want your theory to stay on the shelf for the rest of your your whole
Right,
life's work to be on the shelf.
right. It is very humbling, and you do realize there's so much that you don't know, and you need to reach out to people.
So
And
in many ways, the humbling of just switching from academia into this space, you had to get advice and you realized how many people. Yeah. So I just think for anyone who's listening to this, you had to think about your own way of doing this where it doesn't feel like I want to be of value. I don't want to have a 5-hour lunch with you every month. That's not a good trade-off for me. And so having people help you understand what does that person need in the relational side of this? And how do you say, hey, listen, like, if you don't have time today, I'll reach back out to you in 3 to 6 months and see if it's a better time for you. The value is not the transaction, it's the
right,
relationship.
absolutely, absolutely.
So, I mean, you've also participated. So, you were in a learning journey, it seems, when I look at your background. So, you started going through a bunch of accelerators and you went through big ones like California Life Science, Stanford StartX, and Y Combinator. Were they as valuable as one thinks they're supposed to be, like in helping you
Yeah,
build
so it's funny
companies?
to circle back to your comment about how it's the relationship that's more important. We did CLSA, StartX, and YC in that order, and I think we were kind of lucky that we actually accidentally did them in that order. CLSA gave us access to a wide range of experts, and at that time, we didn't even know that we needed to know these particular people.
Mhm.
But we're still in touch with some of them. And we realized over time the things that they told us at the time, we thought, well, what good does that do us? It didn't click.
You wouldn't know until 2 years from then you needed that information.
I always
Uh-huh.
remember when I was pregnant with my daughter and someone tried to tell me something, and then they just looked at my blank face and said, forget it. You're not ready.
Oh my god. That was
Uh,
actually generous of them to acknowledge that right then and just like, "You know what? We'll talk later."
right.
Uh,
So CLSA gave us a sounding board of many experts,
yeah,
and we did stay in touch, and we came to appreciate what they could teach us. We didn't always at the moment.
yeah. So much in life is like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to your point, relationships are important to maintain. X was great for founder community. They give you an opportunity to workshop through a lot of situations that you're experiencing right in the moment. And they set you up with founders that are just a little bit farther ahead than you are. I think StartX is great for that. C, the big one, YC, they really coached us. They coached us like a professional coach coaches an athlete, right?
Right.
They bring out the best in you. They tell you all the plays that you didn't know, not only that you should be executing, but like everybody else's plays that
Yeah.
didn't realize what was going on. They tell you to recognize them, the idiosyncrasies of other players or people in power or situations and how to navigate them.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that was a huge learning experience. And of course, the YC network is second to none.
Do you feel like you stay in touch with a lot of those YC folks?
We've stayed in touch with people from every one of those.
Did you have like, if you could identify what the mindset shift was for you? And I think for a lot of people that I know, they're all in these career transitions and they're trying to figure out, do I stay in something similar? Do I wholly transform into a new thing? What was the biggest mindset shift you had to make?
So we've always been very conscious of the fact that we're scientists and now we have to be more than scientists. And at one point, we thought we really should be more intentional or structured about acquiring business knowledge
Yeah.
on just reading whatever books we pick up and talking to people. So I actually took a Stanford class and they had a lot of GSB professors rotate through this class. And what struck me was that all of them talked about culture, company culture and team culture.
Yeah.
I think the difference shifting from academia to a startup is I think academia tends to be a little bit more individualistic, or at least it's not as intentional about creating team culture.
Yeah. You
Uh,
want the best, most published scientists possible.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is collaboration, but I think when you're working in a startup, team culture is so critical.
Yeah. True.
To be fair, YC told us this a lot, and it didn't really stick then. It wasn't like the penny dropped a little bit later, and then
Yeah.
realized, oh, all of them are so right.
Yeah. Let's jump to the company itself. What do you see is coming up next? What's on the horizon?
Right. So we are in the middle of our first in human clinical trial,
Mhm.
and we already are looking ahead to what other things we can do with this platform, how we can go beyond what we're testing now, other diseases, other uses. And so that's exciting. And we're doing new designs and we're looking at new applications.
Mm, great. Fantastic. So for anybody who is in a career pivot or exploring what going from one industry to the next, if you were going to sell them on why do a startup, I think there's plenty of books out there that tell you why not to. But if you were going to sell them on what is the upside of being in this kind of environment, what is it?
So I think if you're someone who is happy to always be presented with a challenge, always be working on something new, and who's okay with suddenly new deadlines that didn't exist yesterday,
Quick.
kind of think that people who respond to emergencies, that kind of
Yeah.
get up and go and do it. It's
Love rolling up your sleeves, getting it
right.
done.
I think it's great for if you are happy to tackle lots of different kinds of problems.
Yeah. Okay. All right, fantastic. I have a lightning round of questions. Are you up for a couple more questions? I know we're on
Sure.
time. Okay. What's a piece of advice that you received that stayed with you throughout your career?
I think it's just to listen to people.
Okay. What's a song that gets you pumped up for a big day?
Oh, run the world.
Yay, good. Me too. One book you'd recommend to all aspiring female leaders?
I think it's good for everybody. How to listen.
How to listen. There's a theme here. How to listen and then maintain a relationship. To me, that's like, and that's part of it is listening to them, right? Do you have a personal motto or quote that you live by?
Try to listen to everyone. People know so much. And this goes back to to talk to someone, you really just talk for more than 30 minutes. It takes a while to draw out and for them to also figure out how to fit what they know with where you are.
Yeah, and really be helpful. How can everybody find you? How can anyone who wants to be either part of the team or support the future and the vision?
Listen,
All right. Okay, good. So great. Thank you so much for your time today. It is such an honor, I'll tell you, as a venture capitalist, to find someone like you whose commitment and intellect and readiness are all in line. And what a gift to be part of the journey. We're so honored to see you in action.
thank you. We are so privileged to have you on our side.
All right. Well, everyone, you heard this great journey from academia to startup for a scientist and how listening and building great relationships are core tenets to the success. So thank you so much,
Thank
Grace.
you.